I want to share some of my experience with A/B testing and usability testing at a large company in the Netherlands. And in the process, I hope I can teach you something to do that for yourself. Session is not about me, but so you have some background information. I'm a psychologist, more the usability side of psychology, and I work as a conversion specialist and helping companies understand their customers better through testing. These are some of the customers I worked for. Always work with a lot of data in a data-informed way. Apply knowledge of psychology. We have around 120 years of psychology research laying around. We can use that to improve the user experience online and do a lot of A/B and multivariate testing. Last year I had a project at Sanoma, one of the bigger media companies in the Netherlands. It's a Swedish Finnish company, and they have a large comparison website in the Netherlands, Kieskeurig, and that's where I was optimizing for. Also work a lot with Magento. I also organized Dutch Meet Magento events, and in 2 weeks we also have them in the Netherlands. So if you like this event, you want to join the Netherlands, go for it. So usability. What's usability? Something is usable when it's easy to learn. If you come to a website for the first time, and it's easy to learn how it works, that's important. Efficiency, how fast can I do something on a website? Is it memorable? When I return to the website for a second time, do I still remember how it works, or do I have to relearn the whole process? Do users make a lot of errors? And if they make an error, is it easy to figure out what's happening and easy to return? Maybe there's an error in the form. Is it easy for the user to correct the error? And satisfaction. Is it fun to use? Is it easy to use for the user? So last year I did a session on persuasion, and to put it in perspective, usability and persuasion. Usability is mainly about removing the friction, the bumps in the road, and psychology and persuasion is more about increasing motivation. So we have a combination of both here. And when we're talking about A/B testing, I want to see some hands. Who is doing A/B testing here? Okay. Who's using usability testing, as in getting users from outside to your company, asking them questions? 5, I think. Okay, great. So A/B testing, showing different versions to your visitors. Can be 2 versions, can be more, still A/B testing. And you also have something called multivariate testing. And that's when you create even more versions, not only differences on one variable like text, but you can also make a variable. For example, if you're testing a button, you make the button bigger or smaller or a different size or a different color, then it's called multivariate testing. This actually can be quite complex, so why even bother? I think selling online is quite difficult. Can be, especially when you compare it to offline. If you look at average conversion rates online versus offline, offline it's easy to reach 20-25%. But online it's much lower. These are some average numbers from different verticals online, and you see it's really hard. This is the 15% conversion line. It's really hard to get higher. Some examples. Staples is 8 to 11% conversion. Pro Flowers, selling flowers, 15.8 25% conversion. Woman within, 25.3% conversion online. And this is a supermarket chain in the States. I don't think this is a name they will use in Germany for a supermarket chain. But 40.6% conversion rate. But still, if you compare that rate to offline, how many people do you see walking out of a supermarket without a bag of groceries? Not many, especially not 60%. So yeah. What is it that we're doing wrong online? Or are we doing something wrong? Well, it's really hard to do some things, and here are some examples. It's hard to get feedback from a product. I can't try these on online. It's really hard to get people to commit something. Online, people just keep putting stuff in their baskets, and they just leave. You don't see that offline, luckily. You don't see people putting all those things in a basket in the supermarket and just leave. It's hard to smell something or touch something online. And personalization, we're getting better and better at it, but it's still pretty hard to do online. If you're selling cheese, for example, and someone comes in and you know this person, he's been selling cheese from you for the last 10 years, you know what wines he likes, it's really easy to do a personal recommendation for new cheeses, new tastes. So I have 5 tips for you, too. So 10 in total. My experience with the testing process, 5 tips on that, and 5 tips, direct optimization tips I've encountered over and over again that you probably should apply. So let's start with the first 5 about the process of A/B testing. I think it's really important that you work on learnings first, not on conversion. Conversion will be the result of it, but start with learning from your users what they want, what they need, and what they are doing wrong on your website. Have a proper hypothesis, as in don't just change the color of your button or a text just to change something. You need to have a reason. Change the color of the button because it doesn't stand out right now. If I have a hypothesis that if a button will stand out, users will click on it more often, then you have a valid hypothesis to test, and you can use A/B testing for that. Time and resources are limited, so be smart at what you test. You probably don't have the user numbers if you have a German website, you probably don't have the user numbers that an American website has. In America, it's really easy to do what I call brute force testing. Then you can do so much testing that it's still financially attractive to do dumb testing. But if you have lower numbers, like we have here in Europe, segmented markets, it's better to do a smarter way of testing. Get yourself a team. Last year at Sanoma, I created a team. It doesn't need to be full-time positions for every specialization. You won't get there at first, but you do have several specialties. A psychologist, of course. You need one of those. No, but the psychologist can understand why people behave something. You can have a lot of data, but if you don't know why, it doesn't really help you. It helps to have a psychologist to explain user behavior. A functional tester, if you create something, an A/B test or a user test, it needs to be validated. It actually works. A front-end developer to create the testing. Web analyst to do analysis before your test, what are users doing now, after the test, what variants were working better than others. Someone from content to create the content of the test, if it's about text or images or other forms of content, and the UX designer to visually create tests, if that applies to your test. And this is what I see as the core team of an optimization. Like I said, it doesn't need to be full-time positions for each, and positions can be combined at first. But this is what I think should be the basis. If you have such a team, this team will need support. It's not a standalone team in the organization. It will need some support from the rest of the organization. Sponsor a shit umbrella. It's a term from Lean Startup. You need someone to protect the optimization team. Like I said, it's really important to go for learnings, but business often wants to see conversion first. They don't care about the learnings. They just want to make more money. So you need to have a shit umbrella. Customer support. Very important to talk to customer support. They are the first ones that users call or read the social media post. Those are really the people direct in touch with the users. So you can get a lot of feedback from them. Backend development, important for a more complicated test with more logic in it. Marketing, if you're deploying a test at the same time they're doing a big campaign, that can be harmful for your test, so you need to stay in contact with the marketing team. Same for the traffic side, and of course business needs to, you need to communicate a lot with the business if they're creating new products, where's the product heading to, where do they want to see the site heading to next year, next month. Okay, number 3. Optimize for the journey. Don't just optimize for a single page or a single element. It's often, like I said, it's easy to use a button as an example to test, but a button is most often not the most interesting thing to test. It's just a single element. If you optimize for a journey, for example, if the psychologist thinks of a certain theory that social proof is helping your visitors to convert, and you don't have a lot of social proof, don't just add social proof on one page. Add it to throughout the journey, and not only on your website, also in your newsletter, in your campaigns, and then you can see the real effects. If you're doing the optimization of the journey, communicate consistently, really helps. If you add social proof, don't add other techniques, don't mix them. If you're at a point that you can see different user segments, if the basis is okay, you can start with user segmentation and also include off-site behavior. It can be marketing campaigns, can be behavior in stores, can be how people behave at home, can be anything. Optimization workflow. The workflow I created is a bit complex, but I made it a bit easier. We start with input for the test, just brainstorming ideas, maybe from analysis of the data or from usability testing. Put it in a big bucket of ideas. Then we prioritize. How we prioritize, I'll tell you about that later on. We create the proper hypothesis, so we know what we're testing and we can learn something from it. Then we do the testing. After testing, we have the analysis phase, and then if we did it right, we have results. And results are learnings, not necessarily an increase in conversion, but learnings. And the most important part, those learnings go back as input for new tests. This is also quite an important part, I think. sharing the results, sharing the learnings with everyone, to get them involved. You want everyone to know what the optimization team is doing, and it's hard for management sometimes to get what you're doing if you're testing a lot of different versions, and especially at the beginning when you start to form a team, when you're aimed at learnings, conversion might not be the biggest direct impact. So you need to get management involved in the ideas and how you work towards bigger impact in the long run. And of course, probably, maybe the most important part, involve your users in the user testing and optimization. So when to test your users, basically any time in the process. The earlier on you can get results about how users think of your product, of your prototype, the easier and the cheaper it is to go in a new direction or to correct mistakes. But of course also live site and sketches, and of course also competitors. That's really fun to test. So where do you start testing? If you have a lot of ideas, if you just sit down with your team, you can probably get up to 50 test ideas very quickly. I use the PI framework. The P stands for potential. And you look at the heuristic, that's where the psychologist comes in, and experienced conversion manager. You do an estimation of how much impact you think this test will have. Will we increase with 50%? Will we increase with 100%? 200%? Estimation of the impact of a test. Then the I stands for importance. And what we do is just look at the number of page views a certain page get. If you're improving search results, and if you have 20% of the pages, page views on your website search results, we use 20% for this number. And for ease is how easy it is to develop. It makes a lot of difference if a test is can be developed in 1 week, or if it takes 2 months to develop. So we give each one a number. So you maybe have 3 IDs. Potential, we scale them from 0 to 1. 1 is high potential, 0 is low potential. Do the same for importance. 0 is low importance, 1 is high importance. So if you would change something in the header or the footer of your website, which is on every page, it gets a 1. And ease of implementation. And if you just multiply those, you get a score. We call it the PI score. And the higher the PI score, that should be on top of your list, and that should be the first one you should start implementing or testing. I don't say this is a perfect system, but it really helps in explaining to the rest of the organization why are you testing this and not the other thing. And you can also play. If you have a lot of research in development, then ease might not be that important to you. You can scale that down, maybe divide it by 2 by default. Or if you have very scarce development capacity, you can multiply it. So you can play with it. How many users to test? Well, for an A/B test, we test for 2 weeks to 4 weeks. So depending on your traffic, you can choose the amount of users you need. We always use the rule of thumb as 150 users for every test variant. 150 conversions for every test variant at minimum. And if you're doing a usability test, this is a graph that shows how many problems you've found in the test, with how many users. It's a graph from the Nielsen Group. They researched this. As you see, between 3 and 4, you almost get all usability issues, or at least a lot. So if we usually test with 6 people on a day if we do a usability test. Yeah, what kind of users? Kind of depends on who you're targeting. We are targeting we are comparison websites, so we were targeting pretty much everyone. But if you're only targeting, say, a specific gender, you can only choose that gender, but make it as broad as possible. Where to test? You can test on site, of course, if you have a lab, or you can hire rent a lab. You can do on-site testing, get users physically to that location. You can ask them questions, give them a case. You can do it remote. There are several services online. You can do remote user testing. It has the advantage of being a lot faster, but usually you can't ask follow-up questions. But it's really, when you start with usability testing, I'd say start with remote testing, and after that you can go to the next level with on-site testing. If you're doing usability testing and you have a test day, I think that the biggest mistake people make is, especially when you're invested in the product, to ask the user questions like, wouldn't it be great if the product would do X or Y? You shouldn't do that. Help them get comfortable, show them around the lab, help them with thinking aloud. That's difficult for many people. But don't ask them questions that you think the product should do. That can be hard for yourself also. But let the user do the talking. After a test day, you get a lot of results. I usually have 4 pages of notes after a testing day, and I don't write that big. If you have an idea of what could be improved, test it. If you're not sure, if it could be A, could be B, could be C, you have a nice idea to test. We also encounter a lot of bugs usually during such a day. Something that doesn't show up in an error report, but is a usability bug. We don't test those, we just fix them, or try to put it on a roadmap to be fixed. And a test day is also really helpful in help refine estimating the test potentials in the pi score. Yeah, as a side note, there's a lot of tools involved in usability and A/B testing. People here use Visual Website Optimizer, Optimizely. Yeah, a few of them. We also use SiteSpect and Qubit for A/B testing and personalization. For raw data, if you're working with Google Analytics, I can recommend Supermetrics. You can get your data out of Google Analytics and into a Google spreadsheet. Really works well to get your own data analysis going on. Feedback. We also get a lot of valuable feedback from the site. Just to have a feedback button on your site. Not a lot of people use it, but when they do, they usually give good feedback. And of course, Google Analytics for web analytics. And for project management, we use one tool for the complete A/B testing process and UX testing, from ID management to prioritization, hypothesis, documentation of the test. It's called Podio. it's not specialized in A/B testing. It's just a general tool to manage spreadsheets. Basically, it's an advanced spreadsheet manager, very advanced. Yeah. Okay. So 5 direct optimization tips. You could apply them probably to your own website. The first might be easy, but it's still a lot of websites and A/B testing I see is aimed at getting new users to buy. But it's really a lot easier to get existing users, existing customers to buy again. That's a lot easier. Search and filtering results is really important for users and goes wrong quite often. And when no results are found, show alternatives. Never show an empty page. Discontinued products are often removed from the website, which results in empty pages in search results. But also you miss out on an opportunity if a person was looking for a product to show alternatives. And also, it was in my presentation last year, context matters. If you have a product that's not working that well or is discontinued, leave it on your website. This was a test by The Economist, and they had 3 versions of their subscription model. The Economist is a magazine. They had a web only, a print only, and a web and print version on their website. And these were the subscription rates. So most people went for the web and print, and no one went for the print only, which is logical, right? Why would you take this one if for the same amount you can get web included? So at The Economist, they thought, well, we're not selling it anyway, so just let's remove it. That was not a good idea. So even when something isn't selling, it might make the other products look more interesting. Direct checkout, this was on a listing page, a lot of products here. In this case, there were TVs. And there are a lot of products on that page, and you can go from the listing to the product detail page. And like I said, this is a price comparison website. So on the product detail page, you could get product information, and you could click to several websites that were offering this product. And what we did was not only go to the product detail page, which was this button, but direct link to the cheapest offer, which got us almost 5% higher click-out rate. So make it really easy and fast for experienced users to go through your website. This is also for existing users that were already using your website, already doing clickouts. This is a product detail page. Here are several web shops offering this product. And here you can do a click out to those websites. What we did, once you did one checkout, one click out, and you returned to our website, you got this pop-up. And what we did was we marked the one you visited. We marked that one as a checklist. And people like checklist, and people like to finish checklist. We tried several buttons. This was the one that won. And we got 4% higher click-out rate from users that were already clicking. Okay, so why should you do this anyway? To make money. I think this is a nice case when we were when you do a lot of UX testing, you see a lot of, like I said, you encounter a lot of new ideas for A/B testing, but you also encounter a lot of bugs, and those get to the backlog, and those never get fixed, usually, because why would you fix a small bug when you're working on a new feature or something that's really going wrong? Why would a small bug be on top of the list? But what we did, I couldn't show the actual rates, but I think this was around 32% conversion. This was 36% conversion, and this is when we implemented a sprint. And that sprint it contained between 50 and 60 UX bug fixes. So no new features, just fixes in the interface that were usually somewhere below on the roadmap. With one sprint, we decided let's fix a lot of those little pesky, annoying bugs on the website. And as you can see, that really helped the conversion go up. Another thing to remember is that conversion is not a stable factor. Even if you don't change anything, conversion will go up and go down. And there are a lot of factors involving this. We also did a research, we had 2 years of data, and we looked at the day of the month, and what we saw was quite a big effect on when people got paid. Few days before, we saw a dip in conversion, and after people got paid, everyone got the salary around 22nd, 23rd of the month. Conversion rates went up again. So those are effects that doesn't include anything. You don't change anything on your website, but a lot of external factors can influence that conversion. So that's also why it's important to do A/B split testing at the same time, so you know you can exclude all those other factors. Okay, that's it. Any questions so far? Not all at once. Okay. I have one more. When I was working at Sanoma, getting users to a lab is really expensive, and I already told you about remote user testing. And remote user testing, there are some great services out there to do remote user testing, but they're almost always in English. And I don't know about here in Germany, but in the Netherlands, if you want to test a Dutch website, and it doesn't really work to get English people to review a Dutch website, or to get English people to review a German website or a Spanish website. So I'm currently working on this project. If you're interested in user testing, remote user testing, you get really fast feedback within 1-2 days. You can test 10, 20 people, get feedback on your website, ask 4, 5, 6 questions, and in your own language, Spanish, French, German, Dutch, doesn't matter. And I think when I look back at the user testing at Sanoma, I think 80% of the issues you encounter during a lab day, you can also fix with remote user testing. So let me know if you want a trial run. Give me your business. If you give me your business card, I'll send you a link for the free trial. Okay. I hope you have a great day, and I hope to see you tonight at the party.